Alright, I hope y'all can see me. Trying to balance this camera in my hand. But today I'm going to be going over the equipment that you're going to need for a chess tournament. And I'm going to start with the very basic stuff, down to some things that you probably wouldn't have really thought of unless you were at the tournament hall. But I always, make sure that I have these just so I'm as comfortable and prepared as possible. But without further ado, let's jump in. Here I have all of my items, and I'm going to kind of go in order, from those things that you most definitely need to the things that are just optional and things that are like, helpful after the fact. But I'll start here with this bag. So this is just a typical chess bag. Costs like 20 bucks, maybe even less. And pretty much what you do inside here is hold your board in pieces. So on the side you'll have your pieces, on the other side you'll have your dark pieces, and in the middle you'll keep your clock. If I could open that up, you'll have your clock, and then here you'll have your board. It's really nice they make these so that you don't end up forgetting one aspect when you go to a tournament. I don't know why this got... Okay, there we go. And this is your board. So basically what you got to know about your boards and pieces is that there are certain ones that are tournament legal and certain ones that are not. You need them to be, like non-standout colors. So things like, blue, green, yellow, orange, anything that's like super standout, normally not going to fly in a tournament. Like your Walmart chess sets and stuff like that are like made out of cardboard or out of like glass. Those are also not generally going to fly with tournaments. Apart from that, you also need to make sure that your pieces are normally a certain height. So they kind of go off of like the queens and kings for height. And what you do is that when you order them, you have to make sure that they're the correct height to be played with, because some of them are too small and they're not going to fit on the standard board size, which goes, hand in hand with the standard board size. The tournaments are going to let you know beforehand, if they don't supply the equipment, what equipment needs to be used. So make sure that your pieces are tournament specific. And they can be out of plastic, they can be out of like wood, they can potentially be out of like a metal as well. But you have to kind of check with the tournament beforehand just to make sure your sets are okay. Because if you're playing with the white pieces, you are generally the one who uses whatever board is provided, but if you're playing the black pieces, then you need to provide the board generally. The clocks are also important because you need to make sure that they're good for the tournament. And on the back, normally, if you look here, they're going to tell you how to program them for, Blitz, which is just like friendly, for tournament modes, which are the most common settings that you'll see for tournaments. But sometimes you'll get tournaments that are going to have, like a time control that is not standard to these clocks. So say it's like 75 minutes, for example, and your clock only has 65, you have to know how to program your own clock before the tournament begins to get to that time setting. And especially if you're playing black, you're responsible for that. And if any of your equipment is not up to par, best case scenario, you'll just use your opponent's equipment. But worst case scenario, if there's something wrong with your setup, then they might even just forfeit you for that round. So it's not something to, take lightly or just hope you'll figure out, when the time comes, because they may very well just give you a 0 for that round and give the win to your opponent. Next up is going to be a book for writing moves. So chess notation or move writing is required for pretty much every rated tournament. And as you can see here, this is what an example sheet looks like from one of my tournaments in Charlotte, it looks like. And what you have to do is you have to notate every single move. And then generally there are exceptions, like when you get below 5 minutes or 10 minutes or something in a long tournament, they'll say you no longer have to write the moves down because that takes away time from your clock that's rather important. But if you're in a tournament where each side has like 2 hours plus, then you taking 5 seconds to write down the move is not going to be, make or break. However, if there's an argument that comes on board and one player is accusing another of cheating, or if the players disagree with where a piece was on the board, then what will happen is the tournament director will generally go over the notes of both players, and then the notes will be obviously a logical sequence of how the moves occurred, where the pieces ended up, so they'll be able to prove one player correct or incorrect based off of that. And if you never wrote down your moves, I mean, if they don't just kick you out just from that, then they'll obviously side with the other player, you know, best case scenario, with whatever may have occurred. Also, make sure you bring multiple pens, just in case one goes bad. A lot of tournaments do prepare sheets for you, where everything is already kind of filled out from, like, you know, moves, opponent, you know, your rating, his rating, what round it is, you know, all that important info. But what I do is I always bring my own book to keep the games in, and that way what happens is, like, 30 minutes, half an hour before the round starts, I will actually you know, write down everything for my game beforehand, which kind of gets me in the correct mood. You know, I kind of like get the it's game time, what's it called, like train of thought before the clocks even start. So I kind of get mentally prepared by doing that. So that's what I enjoy doing. These two are for comfort. So if you're playing in a tournament, you're probably going to be there for multiple hours, you know, at a minimum, at least like 2. And then if it goes longer, you could be there for like 4 to 6 hours per round. So that's one chess game that's going, you know, 5 hours or so. So make sure you stay hydrated, bring something to drink, bring something layered that you could take on or off if you get too warm or too cold. Because obviously you're not allowed to leave the playing hall or you'll be forfeited. They will have restrooms, so you can of course go to the bathroom, you know, if you need to. But you won't have any access, you know, to get like food or drink outside of the hall. And generally they're going to give you water and stuff like that too, but if there's a specific drink that you know, helps you settle down, then bring that with you. I generally bring like one with me and then have a lot of water at the tournament. And then I always bring something that's easy to take on and off as far as like a sweatshirt is concerned. Next up, these are 2 optional things. So food, as far as like, you know, bringing in a 5-course meal, obviously not going to, you know, be looked well at during a tournament. And depending on the tournament, even something like just a little protein bar or a snack would be considered too much. But if you have something that's like a, you know, a quieter snack that you know, you can eat, then I recommend just eating before you play. But if you know, can't help it or whatever, you just like can't think straight because you get hungry or whatever, then I say just pack like a little snack in your playing case, and then you know, just have it in the game if you need to. But again, don't have like a bag of chips or anything that you're going to constantly be like wrestling with. Try to get something that's like pretty easy to digest, you know, clean, not going to interrupt anyone's train of thought or anything like that. Sunglasses are another optional one, something that I typically don't opt for. But part of chess, for some people, is like that poker aspect where it's like hiding your emotions on your moves. Because you could be making like a dubious move, or a move that you know is bad, but you don't want your opponent to understand that, or you don't want him to think that you're not confident going into a certain exchange, or that you're worried about a move you made. Then I mean, yeah, sure, you could wear glasses to kind of help hide your expression. Again, not something I typically do, but I do see a couple of people every tournament who just wear some sunglasses when they play, just to hide their own expressions. And then the last thing that I have right here is just a laptop. So this is more so for like your longer tournaments, but it's good for all of them. But pretty much what I like doing is bringing something that has the capability of looking up my games, and you can do this pretty much on like a regular cell phone too. If you have like a chess.com or Elite Chess account, then you could just plug in your game after you play it into the engine and figure out where you made mistakes and where you were correct and all that good stuff. And I say that's especially important for tournament play, because the lines, you'll see repeating lines a lot more frequently in longer formats than in shorter formats. So whatever opening you play for chess, say for example you play the King's Gambit. If you were to play online blitz games, or online rapid games even, you could play 20 different games and you'll have your opponents respond in 20 different ways. When you get into a tournament and you play the King's Gambit, you know, people are going to think for a lot longer time. You know, it's not going to be 20 seconds of thinking about the opening, or even like, you know, 5 minutes. I mean, they will literally have half an hour to an hour if they want to, if not longer, if they want to use more time to figure out the opening. And generally a lot of openings have 1 or 2 moves that are like good responses in the opening game. So you will very much be facing the same lines over and over, so I say it's even more important to get your analysis done on tournament games. Just because if you mess up in one game and never go back to figure out where you messed up or how you could have done better, you're just going to make that mistake at least one more time during that span of a tournament, which can be anything from like 4 games or 3 games up to like, 7 to 9 to even 11 games. But yeah, this is kind of the, the stuff to keep in mind when you're playing. Number one, make sure you have all the required equipment. Make sure you know how to use your equipment. Make sure you know how to notate, which I will go over in another video for people, not too difficult. And then, make sure you're comfortable. If you want to have some extra strategies, such as like covering your eyes or having a little snack, or after the fact going over your games, please don't do it during the tournament. You'll be banned forever. But yeah, hope that helped, and any more tournament related questions, let me know.